This is J. Krishnamurti's first public talk in Bombay, 1969.
I wonder what you would like me to talk about, because this gathering is a serious affair. It is not a philosophical or a religious entertainment. We are here together to face an extraordinary crisis in the world. And if we merely treat these talks as a form of intellectual amusement or gathering a few set of ideas with which you agree or disagree, or for an intellectual gathering of information, I'm afraid we'll be sorely disappointed. For we are concerned, as everyone must be, with problems that are almost insoluble. With problems of great discontent throughout the world, with revolt, with deep dissatisfaction with things as they are. And a serious person who is concerned with this must not only give his mind and heart to this solution, but also maintain a certain quality of attention, a certain gravity, a certain responsibility for what is happening around him. I think everyone is aware of what is going on in the world. Not only in this country, but in the communist world, in Europe and in America. Everywhere there is revolt, not only by the students, but also by people who are deeply concerned not intellectually, who are concerned with the total relationship of man. There is revolt among the students in America, the hippies, the communes, the general destructive violence that's going on there. In the communist world, there is great lack of freedom, brutality, bureaucracy, and the utter insensitivity to man's relation to man. And as one observes in this country, when the speaker has been here off and on practically every year for the last 45 or more years, observes the steady decline There was the fever of independence. There was the looking to the politician to solve all his problems, worshipping personalities, ideals, and thereby shirking all our responsibilities, following a particular political or economic or social religious leaders, and as one observes, as you must observe, not only from your newspapers, but also what is happening around you, socially, and also what is happening not only at the peripheral life, but also what is happening inwardly. There is disintegration, corruption, the steady decline of man's consideration to man, overpopulation, utter callousness, total indifference to what is happening around him except his own particular survival. And as one observes, the politician has failed, and they will always fail. Really, if you come to think of it, government should be run by computers, not by ambitious, personal, narrow-minded, fragmentary politician. He is really a terror. And to look to him for the solution of our human problem is obviously a neurotic attitude in life. Then you see also in this country the religious life has no meaning whatsoever anymore, if it had any at any time, any meaning. Please bear in mind that we are not criticizing. We are not saying this country is worse than some other country, or this country is far better than another. We are just observing without any judgment, without any evaluation, but merely seeing things as they are, not as you wish them to be. Religion, as we were saying, has no meaning whatsoever. You may go to the temple, you may garland to some idol which has been made by man, by the mind and by the hand. Do some rituals, repeat certain words, but that's not a religious life. And the revolt in this country takes a peculiar form. They become sannyasis or join ashramas. That's their particular revolt. And as one observes, education, going to the universities, starting from schools, ending up at a degree, which gives you, if you are lucky, a job, but you are not educated, you are not cultured. Education implies the cultivation, the understanding of the whole human being, not one particular fragment, which is the cultivation of memory. And that's called education. And you will see also science has also failed. You can go to the moon, live under the sea, do most extraordinary things technologically, change the human heart, transplant it. But the human quality is not there. So when you look around, and I hope you're also looking around, not as a Hindu, Muslim, Parsi, God knows what else you have in your mind, but if you look around dispassionately, observing very clearly, without any prejudice, you must inevitably come to this, that man who has lived for 25 or 30 million years still goes on in the same old way, fighting, violent, brutal, hypocritical, saying one thing and doing another, very clever, but incapable of bringing about in himself a relationship, a quality of mind that can deal with all the problems that life has for one. So, looking at all this, please bear in mind when we say looking, not a fragmentary look, not a look with a mind that's prejudiced, with a mind that thinks in terms of the past, a mind that's conditioned as a Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, Parsi, Sikh and Christian, Catholic and God knows what else. Such a mind is incapable of looking at things as they are. So, we see this phenomenon that man, having lived and suffered, dying and with aching heart and destructive desires and pursuits, he has lived like this for millions and millions of years. Only now, technologically, he can go to the moon, fly in few hours round the world. He can live longer, healthier. Economically, he may be better off. He'll have more food, more clothes, more shelter. That is, on the outward, peripheral existence of life, he'll probably have more comfort, more security. If there is no war that will destroy probably half the world. And each one of us is responsible to bring about a different social world, a different relationship between man and man. I don't think we realize how extraordinarily serious and grave the situation is. You may not have it in Bombay. You may be well fed and probably only concerned with your particular little backyard, with your particular little jealousies, ambitions, greed, envy. But the problem is much greater. So first, we must observe things as they are, not what we should like them to be. One can see human beings are broken up in themselves. They are fragments. They are not a whole being. The word individual means indivisible, not that cannot be divided. Individual means the whole, complete. But we are not that. In ourselves, we are broken up. We are businessmen, scientists, family men, religious men, bureaucrats, Christians, Buddhists, communists, socialists, and all the rest of it. In ourselves, we live a contradictory life, fragmented, not whole. Therefore, we are not individuals. You know that word, whole, means healthy. And also it means H-O-L-Y, holy. We are not that. So that's the first issue. So we have created a world around us because in ourselves we are so fragmented, a world that's broken up into various nationalities, into different forms of governments, armies, social injustice, class differences, the rich and the poor and all the rest of it, this immense division, not only in ourselves but also in the world around us. You go to the office, for 40, 50 years of your life, there you are a different human being. Come back home, there you are also another different human being. In the office you are brutal, violent, acquisitive. At home you pretend to be affectionate, kindly, generous. You're also a religious man. Go to the temple if you must. God is in no temple, no church, no mosque. If you want to find that reality, you have to do something entirely different than what you are doing. So we have created a society Please do listen to all this. Not agreeing or disagreeing, because we are not putting out any new fresh ideas or new philosophy, a new doctrine. But if we know how to look with our heart, with our mind, with our whole being, wholly, at things as they are, not some ideological theory, utopia, or philosophical concept, but things as they are in our daily life. If we can look with eyes that are no prejudice, with eyes that have never been spotted, made narrow by our own callous indifference, then perhaps there'll be a change. So what we are concerned with is seeing this whole problem of human existence, his economic, social life, his religious life, the life in which he has been educated, whatever that education may mean, this fragmentation, the great discontent, revolt, the wars that are going on, for which each one, whether you live in Bombay or in Palestine or in Vietnam, each one of us is responsible. I know it doesn't mean a thing to you. You don't feel responsible. You say it's the Americans who are having that war, beastly war or good war, the favorite war, the wrong war. You're responsible because the way you live. You're responsible because your life is divided as the Hindu, the Buddhist, the monk, the worldly man, and so on. Divided, fragmented. Where there is division and fragmentation, there must be conflict. And conflict not only within and therefore without, which is war. And therefore, you are responsible. You may talk about peace. You may want peace, or meditate in order to have peace. You will never have peace. What is peace is the way you live. So, seeing this vast, contradictory, miserable, confusing, sorrow existence, which is your life, observing it, one asks, you may ask yourself if you are serious enough, how can man face this phenomenon which has never existed before? This immense challenge. If you meet it with your conditioned life as a Hindu, as a Parsi, as a God knows what else, we don't have to go through all that every time. If you meet it with a fragment, when The challenge demands that you meet it completely with all your being. If you meet it partially, fragmentarily, that is, as a scientist, as a socialist, as a communist, as a new Marxist, or the Maoist, or as a new follower of a new guru, then you are meeting it incompletely. Therefore you are creating more sorrow, not only for yourself, but for the generations to come. So seeing this immense problem, seeing the great challenge, you'll have to meet it not with your old minds, not with your old hearts and with your old ugly thoughts. You'll have to have quite a different quality of mind, totally different. And that's what we're going to find out together. Right, sirs? You have understood? The old mind, which has lived for 40 million years, or 30, whatever it is, cannot possibly answer this challenge. It can only answer in terms of its own conditioning. It can only answer in terms of the past. It can only answer in terms of its own particular culture, tradition, environment, and so on. Thought cannot possibly answer this question, because thought is the response of memory, like the electronic computers. You give it information, and it gives you the answers according to the information it has received. So, similarly, the brain is the repository of all memory. And thought is the response of that memory. And therefore, thought is never free. It's always old. And therefore, the intellect, the thought, cannot possibly answer the challenge. Please do understand this extraordinarily important thing. You understand? The brain. Now just a minute. You know what the word communication means? The meaning of that word? It means to work together, to think together, to create together, together. Not the speaker says something, you agree or disagree with it, you merely the listener, the hearer, and therefore not taking part. in the process of learning, understanding. So communication means the word itself means to create together, to understand together, to work together, to learn together. That is what we are going to do now. Communicate with each other. Not that you merely listen to the speaker. That's a childish game. Every hall, every guru, every leader, political or religious, merely lays down or talks about. In that there is no communication at all. Communication means to work, learn, understand and create together. Therefore, there is no division between the speaker and you. This is very important to understand if we are to proceed any further. If you are unwilling or lazy or indifferent, so that you do not want communication, then you are out of it. But if you are earnest, serious, really concerned with what is happening in the world, then you and the speaker can establish a communication, a learning together. Not from books, not from any authority, but together. That means there must be a rapport between you and the speaker. We must both be vitally, intensely interested in the thing that we are talking about. That's the human being, not the idea of the human being, not what he should be, but what he is. So, we are going to communicate with each other. Therefore, there is no authority, though the person and the speaker is sitting on a platform, which is most unfortunate, because that very position, sitting on a platform, gives a certain authority. And we strip away the platform. We use it merely for convenience, so that we can see each other. Not a person sitting on a platform laying down law or telling you what to think. So where there is communication, there is no possibility of any obedience following authority. Please bear that in mind right through these talks. We are two human beings with enormous problems. And the speaker may have understood more, not more. The word more, better is an ugly comparison. So, together we are going to examine not what you have learned from books, not what you have been told. Because books, however sacred, whatever they are, they're printed words. Books, religious leaders, education, science have completely failed. Because look at your own life. Not at the life of Shankara or the Buddha or Christ and so on. What matters is your life, not according to what they say, what your life is in every day. And if you lived according to them as you have done, or rather pretended to do, you have become hypocrites. And therefore, when there is hypocrisy, there is division, pretension, division, which brings about conflict, destruction, separation. So, if we understand this meaning of that word, communication, and the meaning of that word, individual, which means to be whole, to be healthy, both physically, psychologically, and mentally healthy. And also it means holy, sacred. That one word, whole, implies all that. And when we talk about individuality, the individual, he is not whole, he is not healthy, he is not holy, because he is broken up, contradictory, fighting in himself and others. So, when that's very clear, we can proceed to communicate with each other. That is, observing what is taking place not only in the world but also in our souls. Observing that we have given faith, trust to the political leader, to the religious leader, to formulas, concepts, to doctrines, to political parties, Communist Party, Socialist Party, religious party, this party and that party. We have given our faith to it, our trust, and they have all failed. Because we looked to systems, to methods. Please do listen to all this. It's your life. Because they have said, this is the best system. This is the best method. What Marx says goes, or Mao Tse-tung, or Shankara, or the Buddha and so on. They have offered you formulas, patterns, and you have given your life to patterns, words, to descriptions. So, they've all failed. Even the communist world is upside down, like this world. and having no faith in anything anymore, you think one can have faith in oneself, confidence in oneself. Can you confide in yourself? Because you are the result of the past. You are the result of the society in which you have lived, the culture which has brought you up, the education. And you are all that. You are confused, miserable, uncertain. And how can you have confidence in yourself? You can't. Your thought, your values, your assertions, your dogmas, your beliefs have no value at all. So you have neither confidence in yourself nor in those people to whom you have given your trust, your heart, your mind for the millions of years. So, seeing all this, you ask, where is their light? Not your light, not the light of Shankara, Buddha and all the rest of those people, but light, new light, not the old light put in the old candle. Where is their light in all this monstrous world? You understand the question? Seeing the complete disorder in the world, seeing the darkness of sorrow and fear, anxiety, uncertainty, not being able to rely on anyone, including on yourself. You say, where am I to look? Where am I to find a new quality of mind? So that's what we are going to find out. That's what we are going to learn about, communicate with each other, so that the new quality of mind is necessary. Right, sirs? Is this very clear? That a new quality of mind, of the brain cells, of the heart is necessary to meet this enormous complex life. Because the old has not answered it. The old brain, conditioned for millions of years, cannot answer it. It can only answer in the terms of its own conditioning, of its own memories, beliefs, fears, and therefore it cannot answer something new. Right? Be very clear on this point. If you say, I'll go back to the old tradition, I'll practice more Hinduism or Buddhism or become more ardently communist, that game is over. Because the challenge, which is always new, demands a new response. It demands a new quality of mind. Not a new thought. A new mind. we are using the word mind to mean not only the intellectual, its intellectual capacity to reason clearly, healthily, objectively, without any emotional sentiment. The intellectual capacity and the brain. With all its extraordinary capacities. And the physical nervous organism, all that is the mind. It's one unit, not separate units as the higher self, the lower self, and so on. The soul, the division that man has invented. This invention as the Atman and not Atman, the me and not me, is just non-existent, non-factual. It's a theoretical thing. So whereas if you observe, the mind is the whole in which the brain cells with their memories, the heart with its emotions, love, sentiment, the feeling. All that is the mind. At least we are using that word to include all that as a whole unit, a living body, non-fragmentary. I hope you're also working. We are communicating with each other. Therefore, we are working together. You're not merely a listener. You are partaking in what is being said, which doesn't mean you agree or disagree. So, how is it possible for the brain, which has lived for millions of years, to undergo drastic change? You understand the question? We need a new brain, not transplanted by the experts. We need a different quality of mind. To function at a different dimension. And can this happen? And that's what we are going to learn. Learn together. So, please, this is a very complex question. You have to follow this very closely, step by step, otherwise you won't understand it. As I said, as the speaker said, he has not learned this from any book, from any philosophy, from any psychoanalysis. He has observed. He's observed not only himself, but the world around him. In this observation, he has found that the world is not different from himself. He is the world and the world is him. Not as an idea, as an ideal, but actually, you are the world. You live in this country. This country has taught you to be a Hindu, a Parsi, a Sikh, a Muslim, God knows what else. It has taught you to be a communist, a socialist, and so on. It has poured into you propaganda for thousands of years. You are that. You are what you have been told to be. And in observing, one sees the necessity of a new mind, new quality of mind. I think everyone agrees to that, agrees verbally. Intellectually, yes, they all say yes, that is what's required. Because the old responses have failed. The old formulas, the old guides, the old schools, the tradition have all gone, finished. They have no value anymore. You are faced with a new world, with a new challenge. Therefore, you have to have a new quality of mind. How is this to happen? First of all, one must realize that we are slave to words. Please follow this. Slave to words. You are a slave, if you are a Hindu, to the word Atman. If you are a Christian, to the word Jesus. And so on. You are a slave to the word and to the verb to be. I have been, I am, I will be. On that, your whole social, moral, religious life is found. On the word to be. Just think of it. To be a slave to words. So one must realize, be aware of this slavery to words, and therefore one becomes sensitive to words. And also, one must realize, not only verbally, but actually in your heart, in the depths of your being, that the description is not the described. The word tree is not the tree. The wife is not the wife. So the description, the explanation is not the described, is not the explained. So therefore the word is not the thing. Right? We are asking, how can this new mind with a new quality come into being, come, flower? in which is included the brain and the heart. How can it happen that we love? That we have compassion. You know that word compassion means passion for all people, for all things, passion. How can there be love, compassion, and a quality of mind that is stripped of the past? So the quality of mind that is innocent, that can see things as they are and transform them. Innocence means, the word itself means that which is incapable of being hurt. Do you understand what that word means? Incapable of being hurt. Therefore, no resistance. And therefore free. You require such a mind, a free mind, a mind that is not capable of resisting, and a mind that is incapable of being hurt. Because the moment it is hurt, it resists and therefore shrinks. Therefore loses its vitality, its energy, its capacity. So it means freedom without any resistance, and a mind that is incapable of being hurt, therefore free, and a heart that has no jealousy, that knows no competition, that's not envious, that has no fear, that knows what it means to love. And it's only such a mind and such a heart that can respond to this, to all this phenomena that's going on in the world. And we are asking, how can this happen? How can this happen that you have this mind and heart when your mind is filled with rubbish and your heart is filled by the things of the mind? How to empty the mind and the heart so that they are fresh, young, innocent. So that they can live at a different dimension. We are going to learn about it. You're not going to be told what to do. We're going to learn together. Do you understand? Learn. That means to learn about anything, you must have not only curiosity, but the energy, the drive, the intensity. Otherwise you can't learn about anything. You can memorize. That's not learning. You can go to college and memorize and pass few examinations, get a degree and get a beastly little job. But learning is not memorizing, not learning a formula. Learning means a movement in the act of learning, which is always the present. Learning means that learning in the active present. It's a movement. And that movement ceases when you accumulate knowledge and from knowledge act. We're going to all that. This requires a great deal of perception, energy to learn. So, we are saying that man who has lived for millions of years, lived with sorrow, lived in fear and anxiety, lived without any sense of love except pleasure, lived in conflict and war. That man is now faced with an immense challenge. Either you respond to it completely, wholly, or inadequately. If you respond to it inadequately, you'll have more sorrow, more confusion, more misery. And no amount of politics and economic changes, whether it is brought about by socialists, capitalists, or the communists, that is not going to change your mind and heart. A different quality is necessary, and which we are going to learn. And to learn, you must have energy. And we're going to go into that perhaps next time we meet. Now, sirs, this is a large audience. Would you like to ask any question? Wait a minute. Don't get up, please. Because there are going to be no discussions as there used to be in that hall, wherever that is, Carrigat Hall or something called. Yes, that's it. It's not going to be there. So if you want to ask questions, now, do it. But before you ask questions, find out why you ask a question. No. Please, sirs. This is not a clever remark. For God's sake, I'm not clever. So don't become clever. Find out why you ask it. Either you are asking it to trip the speaker, or you are asking it out of curiosity, just to see what kind of answer will come, or you are asking because you have thought a great deal as a human being. You have lived as a human being, struggled, miserable, shed tears, frightened, anxious, uncertain. You're asking out of your heart that is aching. Then if you ask, then that question has immense value. But if you're asking a question because you are comparing with what has been said with Shankara, Buddha, all the old gang, then if you are comparing and you say, well, they said so and you say so, then your question has no validity at all. Because you are not asking question what they would ask. Probably the real ones wouldn't ask a question. Because the real ones never ask the question because it is there, right in front of their eyes. It's only the blind, the uncertain that ask questions because out of their blindness. So it doesn't mean that I'm preventing you, the speaker is preventing you from asking questions. But before you ask, look at your own question. Ask with your heart. Then your heart will put the right question in the right word. Then it has depth, meaning, it has a perfume. But if you ask, because your intellect, which is a very small fragment, if you ask a question with the intellect, you are dealing with empty words. And life isn't empty words. It's a living business. Hard, ugly, sometimes beautiful, sometimes joyous. Out of that conflict and misery, confusion and pleasure, ask a question and you will see what extraordinary question you will ask. Right, sir?
Intellectually, but suffered.
Right. By listening, just a minute, sir, there's ask a question here. By listening to you for the last number of years, we have become conditioned by you. And therefore we have suffered by your words. What are you going to do about it? That's the questioner says. You have understood the question, right, sir? That's the question. Have the words conditioned you? Because you have listened for 10 years, 40 years, and I have spoken. The speaker has been on the platform for the last 45 years and more. And so the speaker asks you, are you conditioned by the words you have used? Please think it out. The words. Are you conditioned by the ideas which he has put forward? Has he put forward any idea? Any philosophy? Or has he merely asked you to look? To look. To look at the tree, to look at the stars, the lovely light on the water, the beauty of the sunset, the hills, the green lawns, to look at yourself, just to observe yourself, not condemn it, not judge it, not evaluate, just to observe with your heart, with your mind. Does that condition a human being? Or, having been conditioned, you are translating what is being said according to your conditioning, therefore strengthening your own conditioning. Have you heard what I said? Have you listened with your own conditioning and interpreted what is said according to your conditioning, which then becomes more strengthened? Therefore, you are further conditioned, not by what he said. This is not a clever remark. But he has said, look at your own conditioning. Observe your own structure and nature of your own behavior. The quality of your thought. Observe it. Don't tear it apart. Don't destroy it. Don't just observe. And to observe, there must be freedom. There must be no prejudice to look. To observe, to look, the implications of virtue mustn't enter into it. All this doesn't mean you are conditioned by the speaker. On the contrary, you are conditioned and you have never known how deeply you are conditioned. And when you listen, you are listening through that conditioning. You are listening as a Marxist, as a Parsi, as a Hindu, as a man who says, I have learnt, I have read, I have gathered information, I have known, I have experienced. All that is conditioning. You are not a free man to listen. And if you listen with your heart, that is communicate. That means to communicate there must be affection, there must be love, care, intensity. Then that doesn't condition you. It destroys your conditioning. Wait, madam. Wait, look, please. You know, you're so eager to ask your particular question, you don't even listen to what the speaker is saying. You're already up with your question. You know, you must have interval between two thoughts, between two questions. And when you pop up with a question immediately after the answer, it means you haven't listened to the answer at all. You see, there we are. You're so full of your own problem. And if you understood the other man's problem, other man's question, you'll have understood your own question, your own problem. But that requires patience, that requires observing, that requires that you listen very, very carefully. You asked a question down there, sir. That gentleman over there asked a question. Probably has forgotten it, all right. Wait, sir. That lady asked a question.
I'm sorry for seeing that I wanted to in a hurry ask you a question, but I'm not informed of how much time we have at your disposal. That's why I asked the question immediately.
What's the question, madam?
The question is that you are asking us to get, or we are asking ourselves to learn new values, a new mind, create a new mind, get rid of all the old teachings which are not good for our time, and be free. But is it ever possible for any mind to be really free? And could we find happiness and contentment
Yes.
without any binding?
Yes. The lady says, is it possible to have a new mind? She already says, is it possible to have a new mind and yet be contented, happy, have all the things you have before, you follow, continue the old ways? No?
No, what I meant was that even if we did have a new mind, ultimately we would have to accept certain restrictions, certain boundaries.
Wait. even if you had a new mind, we must accept certain conditions, certain values. See, you're already stipulated what the new mind will do. Look, sirs. You know, it's like a man living in a prison and wanting freedom. He's got used to the prison because he has decorated most beautifully with all kinds of values. And somebody comes along and says, be free. He says, can I have all my decorations too? So first, madam, find out what freedom means. What is implied in that word, not in the word, but in the quality of freedom. Freedom has no value. It is free. So first, learn what it means to be free. Don't say, can I have it with it certain restrictions, certain values, certain moral issues, and so on. You know, the greater includes the lesser. But if you pursue the lesser, you'll never have the greater. So ask first whether the mind can ever be free. If you say it is not possible that the mind can ever be free, it is not possible, then you are out of the problem. That is, you're not concerned with it. Therefore, it doesn't matter to you. If you say it's not possible, then you're not confronted with the issue. But if you are beginning to inquire, then you will find out what is possible, what is the impossible. Please do listen to this. You will find out what is impossible. And therefore, the impossible has a possibility. But what is possible is already done. Right? Have you got it? Do you understand it? No. So look, people said it's impossible to go to the moon. I remember a scientist told us once, oh, it'll never be done. He was a very great scientist. And there they are, the impossible has been done. The possible, anybody can do. You understand? The possible, anybody can do. It is possible to become a rich man or whatever it is. It's possible. And if you are thinking in terms of possibility, you are thinking in terms of littleness. You understand? The possible is always the small. The impossible is possible, but not what is possible is not worth doing. I've got it? We'll go into that.
Sir,
This witness. No, I can hear, sir.
Their insistence of our not falling into a pattern always. I have not heard you more than 10 times. I heard you once here.
It's all right, sir. Please, what's the question?
So your insistence of not falling into a pattern
Oh, no, no, no. The gentleman asked, listen to that question. Not to follow a pattern is not also become a pattern. Right? Does it need answering? Look, when you are crying, when your heart is empty, when you are frightened, do you ask such a question? When you are hungry, really hungry, are you satisfied with the description of food? So when we say, observe the pattern of your life, how you follow one pattern after another, one method after another, one system after another. Observe what it does to the mind. It makes the mind mechanical, habitual, routine, and such a mind has no vitality, no energy, no intensity, no passion. When we say negate the pattern, it doesn't mean you make a new pattern. Negate all pattern, including the idea that you're going to create a pattern out of what is being said. Which means your mind becomes extraordinarily alive, supple, sensitive. You know, sirs, we are tired human beings. We have been through so much from childhood till now. We have suffered so much, insulted, beaten, walked among streets that are dirty, squalid, poor, both inwardly and outwardly. We are shoddy little human beings. And we are saying, look, let us see how whether a new mind cannot happen to you, so that you live with joy, with ecstasy, not this kind of shoddy little life.